And I think we have audio. I think we have video.
We have to ask the chat every time if we have audio.
Are we good? Are we good?
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now? Getting hot now too.
Yeah.
Woo! Stephen, it's Friday. It's Friday again.
TGIF.
Thank God. What a week.
TGIF.
What a week. I could forget this week. I really could.
Yeah, same here actually. I could forget this week for sure. So let's see who we got in the chat here. Let me scroll up.
Hit him up, boy.
Hit him up. So Jason came in like super early, like I think yesterday.
I like when he waits in line. He waits in line. That's awesome.
He's like real early. He's like waiting for an iPhone outside with a tent, you know. We've got Calvin Wong, Pliskin's Run, Goofyfoot, Richueldo, or I think that's how you pronounce it. Goofyfoot, Twisted Gaming TV, JT Brennick again, JLS Gaming. Let's see, Adam. Who else we got? Rich. We got Dan Z. And who else we got here? Jason. Yep, he's there now. And then Ryan Garber. Let's see, Rich. Again, I'm reading the names twice here. Epkiss. And then there's somebody else in here. So Fretburner 89. That was hard to read. Biggie D's, Widow. That's it. I don't think I missed anybody. Fretburner 89. There you go. Cool. Welcome,
awesome.
Everybody.
TGIF. Everyone welcome. I'm not even paying attention today.
We got a less angry show.
Well, there's still a little anger. There's a little anger.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Side, but
we'll get there.
But the word on the street from last week's thing, I was talking to Glenn before. Apparently, Disney kind of went, "What? People are mad about this Ray movie? Fucking clueless.
How stupid and disconnected can a company be?
They're just so clueless, man. I'm like, oh.
I think R-Cade, 1UP, and Disney share the same DNA.
They're just clueless.
Completely clueless.
So we've got lots of topics to talk about.
We do.
Tonight.
We do.
So how about we start about something light? How's that?
Well, again, this was just a week that I would like to sweep under the rug. It was a bad week.
Okay.
Bad
So
week.
let me start first.
You go.
It's my son's 19th birthday today. Last
Happy
thing I remember
birthday.
was bringing the kid back from the hospital when he was born.
You realize
It
that was
goes by
19 years
so
ago,
quick.
right?
Yeah, but it goes by so quick, so quick. So 19th birthday, happy birthday, Sam. And but
Happy birthday, Sam.
but
Sam, I am.
yeah, but in the news, we had this kid, 13-year-old kid, beat Tetris this week or
That's
last
right.
week or whatever.
That's right.
So that was kind of cool. It's too bad some stupid woman from Sky News said, "Oh, go outside." She belittled the poor kid at 13.
But the thing is, I heard he was Billy
Right.
Mitchell's nephew. So is it really true?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm lying. I have no idea.
Basically, the kid's dad had passed away a few months or a year before, whatever, and he basically he dedicated his win or his achievement to his dad, his long lost dad or whatever, right? So pretty cool.
And that was the
So
he beat Tetris on the NES. Is that the one he beat?
NES, he got the kill screen, and he's apparently, but maybe we talked about this before the show. Apparently, first person to do it. Period. They had AI do it, but this is apparently 13 years old.
Well, like I said,
Amazing.
I'm sure someone in Siberia did it, but you will never know that because the guy's in Siberia.
Yeah, no news there. They
No
don't,
news coming out of
They
Siberia.
don't praise folks, but
No.
he did it on a live stream. Apparently, the kid, and you should see the reaction. If you guys get a chance, go see his reactions. Pretty cool stuff. So it's but anyways, I saw that and I was like, hey, that's really cool. 13 years old. That's quite the accomplishment.
That is pretty good. That is pretty. I think
years old. I didn't have that dedication.
I probably got maybe 15 levels in. That's about, I think, it for me. And then it's just.
I had trouble doing the Rubik's Cube at 13 years old.
I still can't do the Rubik's Cube.
Me neither.
No, can't do it.
So it's like,
But you know why I can't do the Rubik's Cube? Because I try and figure it out. You have to go like this. That's how you solve the Rubik's Cube. You just kind of spin your hands and stop, and that's how you.
Yeah, that doesn't work, dude.
No,
that doesn't work. It works in imagination, place, or whatever. So that was a big deal. I mean,
big deal.
This 13-year-old kid. Think about it. You have to like dedicate yourself to do this. Like,
how old was he?
13 years old.
13. What else he got to do with his life? So there he goes. He did it.
Yeah, why not? It's something to do. It's think about it. That kind of drive to accomplish it. Hey, my hat goes off to him. For sure. So let's move on to something else.
Real quick. CES started. So
yes,
CES started.
I saw that.
And before we get into the other minis, at games, I always say that iiRcade looks like they're finally listening to me and some other people out there. They're coming out with some new machines, but they're actually putting a trackball in there for trackball games and a spinner. Now, Gen X Grown Up is out there right now, and he says that on the unit, it's just a paddle right now, which would work with a lot of the games, but like Indy 500 and Tempest, obviously, would not. So I guess he's trying to convince them to put a full spinner in there. But I actually wouldn't be completely against if it's just a potentiometer with a locking point, because most games on the 2600, except for really one, Tempest is unofficial, to make it accurate. So my hat off at least to iiRcade. I don't have one. I will probably grab one of them. They're a little expensive. I know their big unit with a 10-inch screen is like $250, so that's a little pricey. But at least they're listening.
They all look the same. I find that the iiRcade units look the same. The
same
body.
They still get that same basic style.
You know what I mean?
They have a nice handheld. If you haven't seen that one, the handheld has got a spinner on it.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's I don't own any of that stuff, but I go to Walmart and I see it, and I'm like, what was the Kung Fu game? Not Kung Fu Master, but
on the Atari?
They had a Kung Fu. No, for iiRcade they had a little
Kung Fu Master.
Kung Fu. It wasn't Kung Fu Master.
Yeah, it was.
Was it?
Or just Kung? Or was it just Kung Fu?
No, it was a beat 'em up. Anyways,
yeah.
And then you look at another game, and it's the same cabinet style and everything. And I'm like, I prefer what the guys over at New Wave and Numbskull are doing. They're more accurate, that sort of thing.
But so far, that's like the biggest news. Thing I saw that was kind of cool coming out of there.
19K Fox was out there too. I saw
19K Fox is out there. Console Kits is out there. Gen X Grown Up is out there. Rexer.
Triumph or Die. Karate Champ. It was Karate Champ.
There you go. Thank you.
Triumph or Die.
Appreciate it.
Yes. Yeah.
This is what happens. You have two old men on the show. You get half Alzheimer's.
Like, what was that again?
Yeah.
Old timers.
But Janus and the Rexer is out there. He was doing a big thing over at the iiRcade booth. So again, I guess that's some big news. But I guess the big thing for us, I have it on my screen right now. I have my camera froze again. I swear this camera I have right here.
So
but I'm trying to show a couple things here. It keeps freezing up on me. So there's always something in my show that goes bonkers. Here it is.
Wouldn't be the Kickin'it old school. It's not Kickin'it new school where everything works.
Right.
It's
there we
old. Go. You got to kick it a few times and then.
So here is my Atari 400, and obviously they have this new one. We're going to get into some of the things about it in a few minutes, but this is my personal unit, and I actually really love the quirkiness of his keyboard and stuff. But this show is about the minis, right? So Nintendo kind of started with the mini craze. So I'm going to play some videos, and we'll stop the videos, and Steven and I will talk, and hopefully you guys in the chat will chime in.
Share with us which ones you have.
Yes.
We'll talk about one at a time, and then you guys can chime in the chat. We'll keep an eye out to see, each model or whatever came out, and
So here we go. Let's look at the first one, and this is, unless I'm wrong, this is the one that really started it all. If it lets me actually, do the work here.
Play
Hold on a second. Yeah.
Nintendo might
1, 2,
strike you.
3, hit it. Okay, so as usual, Nintendo sets the bar for a lot of these things.
Well, just a second. What do you remember about that launch? Because I have vivid memories that aren't.
I remember it being like the Cabbage Patch Kids, where it was pandemonium. Couldn't get one. People were pirating these things for incredible amounts of money. Actually, I got one from a friend who's no longer with us. He passed away, but before he passed away, he had gotten me my NES Classic, and it was a nice little unit. And of course, after that, that's when you could have went on eBay or Amazon, and there were clones up the yin yang with really crappy NES games on it.
Yes.
I got what do you think?
Friend too. I thought the launch was so underestimated it wasn't even funny. I mean, meaning Nintendo said, "Oh yeah, we'll sell this many." They produced that many, and then it went like 4 or 5 times the price, like not the price, but the quantity. And people were like so high in demand. They went, "Oh, we didn't expect," because it was the first ones, right?
Right.
When you think about it, they were the first ones, so they totally undershot.
And it wasn't that expensive. It was $59 with all those games on. It came only with one controller, but then the big problem was I have 3 of them. I had to get the US version, I had to get the Famicom version.
Oh, that's right.
And had to get the European version. So that's where it became like crazy. It's not just even getting the one, but now you
like
get the
Pokemon.
set.
You got to collect them all.
You had to collect them all. And
so so that launch was rough. It was rough, meaning.
Well, they also made
it was find one.
It was also typical Nintendo. They produced a little to drive up the demand. Would you not agree?
I don't know. Something this new. Think about it. Nintendo's all about making money. I mean, I'm pretty sure that was a mistake of underestimation, to be honest. That's my gut feeling.
Right. Okay.
Meaning I don't think they drove up the price intentionally or the scalpers and all that stuff, but I really think that was a product of the lack of supply. But I really think they went, okay, let's make 100,000 of these things. And then they should have made 500,000 or whatever, right?
Right.
And then there's just, oh shit, everybody wants this thing. And then they had it literally was like 8 months before they had other batches come out.
Right, exactly.
So
and
I think that's what happened. They just underestimated
the unit was well designed. The controller I thought was almost identical to a real NES controller.
The whole thing was good quality.
The game selection was pretty decent. They had the save states. They had rewind. They did a real nice job with the entire
CRT
package.
emulation on the screen, the whole filters and all that stuff. It was well done. The interface was well done, everything, the UI. So yeah, for sure.
They did, and they did a really nice job. And like I said, now I saw Biggie D's Arcade saying he wish he picked one up. I just before the show I started looking for them. They're like $800. You know, they're nuts money at this point.
Yeah, they're fairly
like,
rare because they underproduce them. I think so. But some of the minis on our list here aren't so spectacular.
No, and we'll get to those. But the good thing about it is, like I said, they started making some cheap knockoffs with really bad games, but they do make Raspberry Pi cases, and there's some of those Pi cases for the NES
nice.
are very nice.
Yeah.
Some the first generation I had gotten, the reset button didn't really work. I hacked it, did a video on hacking to make that work, and then of course they fixed that. But I think now, still, Nintendo set the bar as usual, already like close to the ceiling already. So anyone coming after that, if they didn't do that, people are not going to get their expectations met.
That's right. But the nice thing, you can hack them. And all these systems, I think you can hack them in one form or another, to put additional games, artwork, and everything. So apparently, when they hacked it, the hackers went, "Hey, you can fit another 100 games on here. Why didn't they?" or whatever, right? Like it was just limited amount, and meanwhile the firmware
had room.
You know, it was a lot more
well,
space.
That's the good
If
thing
you compressed it was even more.
That's the good thing about these old games. They're tiny, 30K, 32K, 16K.
Yeah,
they weren't very large, and chips, even a 1, megabyte or 4 megabyte is going to hold a ton of these games. So,
oh yeah, for sure.
And I think, like you said, the scene has gotten so well done.
Mature.
It's very easy to mature. It's very easy to put them on. It's very safe. You're not going to lose it. Not going to brick your machine.
Yeah,
you can do it.
Yeah, for sure. So
let's go to the next one.
The second one.
Let's go to the next one. Let's see what's next and see what people think of this one.
Actually, that wasn't the second one, but go ahead.
16-bit arcade graphics.
I don't have them all. What happened?
Yeah, it's all good.
16-bit action. Does. Get Golden Axe, Shinobi 3, Fantasy Star 4, Streets of Rage 2, Shining Force, and many more. Only with the Genesis Mini. 30 years young. Pre-order a 16-bit Genesis Mini now and get 40 legendary games plus 2 bonus games.
Genesis does.
And Sega. Gotta do the Sega. Okay. So what do we think of that?
The best piece of marketing in those days. Sega does what Nintendo don't.
Absolutely.
I just thought that was the cleverest piece of marketing ever, in my opinion. And the guys that did the software on there.
Was it AM2? Was it the AM2 team that did it?
Yeah, exactly. The guys did Outrun and all that stuff. So that whole team did the firmware for this thing. And apparently a lot of people didn't like the interface and stuff like that.
It was basic.
It
was basic.
Yeah, like it wasn't as slick as the NES and the Super NES, let's say, because they were pretty much identical.
But the boxing, we didn't talk before, the NES Classic and the Sega boxes were just really well done.
Yeah, it was very well small version of the original box.
Yep. And I will say the Genesis controller, like the NES controller, felt great in the hands.
Yeah, for sure.
And the console, now this did piss me off a little bit. There's always going to be something that pisses Glenn off. So the Sega Genesis Gen 1 unit came out, and I think did a nice job. It's got the high definition graphics on there. It's the first generation one. But they only gave certain people, and it was a marketing ploy, the Tower of Power. You couldn't go out and buy the Sega CD. You couldn't buy the 32X attachment. All those things were only really available for YouTubers or huge scalping prices. I think you could have gone to...
is that what it was? I didn't know that.
Yes. I remember RGT85. RGT85, he had gotten one. And he said it was just for marketing. There were only so many made. Now, you could have gone to Japan and paid an arm and a leg to get one, which I wasn't going to do. But I would like to have gotten at least a Sega CD because I did like the look of that.
They should have sold that, we'll call it an accessory as a kit, and they could have made an extra $20, let's say, or whatever, of plastic molding that was already created anyways.
Well,
or
that
whatever.
they did do that on the Sega Genesis, the second one, the Genesis 2, which was the smaller one with the side-loading Sega, and they could buy that.
Yeah.
But you know what? That looks like shit. I had no interest in buying the Sega with the side-loading CD. None.
I forget what it was called, that particular version of it, I guess, or whatever. I have the side loader on my setup and the 32X, but I don't have the bottom thing. I see Dan Z's talking about the Commodore 64 and Impossible Mission, one of my favorite games.
Yep. We're gonna get.
So I'm just keeping an eye on the chat here a little bit.
Yep.
So.
I'm gonna say we're not gonna get. There's so many minis. We're just scratching the surface, and some of the higher level ones,
just the popular ones,
right?
Basically.
Right.
Yeah, because we'll be here all night if we're talking about the Chinese clones and everything. We'll
Let's move on to the next
Glenn's
one.
beard will get longer.
It will. Let's go on to the next one here. And this one, for me, this one meant a lot to me personally. Here we go.
Time to play it loud with over 20 awesome games. Radical features. Go back in time with Rewind. Pick a frame that fits your style. Save anytime, anywhere with suspend points. Experience super effects technology. And the never before released Star Fox 2. 21 games, 2 controllers, 1 sweet deal. Now you're playing with power. Super power.
And actually, I was wrong. The next one is the one that's meant. This one was fine, but the next one is the one I was thinking of. But anyway, what did you think of the SNES Classic, Stephen?
So if I recall, again, digging the memory, it came with 2 controllers this time.
It did, but it also cost $80 versus
not
$60.
Just the one. No, but that's a big deal. But the cool part with this whole thing, it was easier to get, and there was Star Fox 2 that people were able to rip out of there and make real cartridges and work on a real Super Nintendo. So, because there was a prototype out there that wasn't finished, I guess.
Right.
And then this got released full, finished on the thing. I think it was they knocked it out of the park again. 2 controllers, the game never seen before. They know it, so to me, that's the better one. And the Genesis, so it's, I preferred the Super Nintendo Mini over the Genesis personally.
Well, I will say that these 3 so far, I thought all were done very well. So, some people didn't really care for some of the Sega Genesis interface, but I still think that the 2 Nintendo ones that came out and the Sega one that had come out, I thought did a really good job. And like you said, for the SNES, it did come 2 controllers, which was a nice touch because it was almost impossible to get a Nintendo. One. Yeah, you can get bootleg ones, but again, they didn't feel the same. It was very difficult to get an original one. In fact, I think I went to GameStop to get mine. I had to buy all this extra crap. I hate when they do that. I had to buy like plushies. Yeah, I had to buy plushies. I had to buy Yeah, you had to get this package to get the damn thing. And I don't care about the other stuff at all.
I was never able to get one. I was never able to get the original one, and then I got it off a friend. He was getting rid of it much later. You know what I mean?
Well, of course, and again, I had to get the Japanese one and had to get the European one. I had to get all 3. So again, it wasn't easy, But there actually
yeah.
was a Facebook group. There was a Facebook group dedicated to around the world for people to get these machines.
Oh, I saw that. I remember that. I actually remember that. Yeah, I forgot about that. So these things were, like you said, I think the perfect comparison is the Cabbage Patch thing.
Yeah.
It became that, and it was just nuts to try to get.
It was
And
almost
it was
like
these grown men trying to
yes,
get these damn things,
absolutely.
not little kids.
No, and it was almost like Star Wars, the good ones, where the day that pre-order opened, there was lines already. I remember going to Best Buy, and
Okay.
when I got there, I went there 2 hours early to find out people were there the night before, and I was like 3 away, and they ran out. So I was like, "You son of a bitch!" I waited like 2 hours to get in there, and they'd run out. But I did get one. Again, I did get it. But I do
didn't,
think,
like I said, I didn't get mine new at all.
and the same thing, you could sideload the games, right? You could add more games.
Oh yeah, that made the thing even better. So it was pretty cool.
And it was very
It's,
accurate. It looked like the SNES. And of course, again, the reason I had to get the other ones was because, although I liked the American version, it looked like a tank. The European one was more of a rounded type of machine. The Super Famicom was not as chiseled, if you will, as the
Yeah.
one we had here.
I'll tell you something that happened with my NES Classic. I was hooking it up to my television, and I hooked it all up. My setup, I have to go through a AV receiver, then the television.
Right.
You know, I plug it all in, and the whole thing's pixelated.
Oh,
I'm like, what the hell happened here? You know what it was? Just take a guess what it was.
It was pixelated. HDMI, though, right?
Yep.
Bad cable?
Yep.
It was a bad cable.
It was a bad cable. I'm like, oh man. So I took that cable, threw it out, but it was just, I was like, how the hell? You could still work the menu and everything. It was just all pixelated. It was kind of funky. So it's yeah. So it's yeah. So
Right.
anyways, what do we got next?
This
What do we got?
this is the one. This is the one I remember. It was 1989. I was in college, back when you got magazines. I was going through an
Okay.
electronic gaming magazine, and I saw this machine, and one of the attachments
Lost your mind?
drew me. Well, one of the attachments did. But let's take a look and see what this next one is. This one's a double. We're continuing through to this next one.
Okay, so those trios there, yeah.
Yep.
We'll talk about those after.
Talking 1 second. Because this one, in my opinion, deserves both being shown. Worth it just for that game alone. Ys Book 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Worth the price of it. And of course, I had to get the Japanese version, the European version, and the American version. Had to get them all. And very proud that I did. So what is your thought on that, Stephen?
So I got the PC Engine, the white one, basically. I picked that up. I couldn't get a TurboGrafx-16 to save my life because I wanted that one. And they're all the same guts inside, apparently.
Oh yeah, they're all
that you
identical.
can
It's just a
switch
shell.
'em. Yeah, the shell is just the only thing that's different.
But
apparently.
actually, if you go in the menu, I believe if you go to the Japanese version versus TurboGrafx, there are different games. There's a couple of games that are
There
different.
is. Yes, you're right. But basically, basically, I got the PC Engine one. Added more stuff. Oh, hey, apparently that Analog Duo scratches discs. Apparently.
Well, it's
That's
that,
what I
and
heard.
I don't have a need for it. We'll get into that later.
No,
but I didn't get one.
Think about it. You buy that thing, and then it scratches your original discs. You'd lose your mind. Anyways,
I would. I so would.
So yeah. So basically, you got all three of them, right?
I did. I had to get all three. Yes.
Yeah.
And the funny
didn't
thing
have
is,
to.
this is the funniest thing about this one is the PC Engine Mini and the Core Duo Mini and a real PC Engine Mini, they're like 80% the same size. It wasn't that much smaller because
really?
because they are already small consoles. It was very close to the original size.
So yeah. So basically, the PC Engine is about almost the size of the real PC Engine.
Yeah, they were not that mini. They weren't.
Yeah. No, that's right. So, but it works great. I love that little mini, and I hacked mine and added some more games on there and everything. It was pretty cool. It's a nice little device.
And what was cool about them is, unlike the original, where only one joystick port, these had two USB ports, so you could put two controllers in at the same time.
Yeah.
That was
I only
cool
have
thing.
the one, but yeah. TurboGrafx-16 Mini, $260.
That's actually it's actually not as bad as the NES Classic, which is I sold for almost $1,000. So that's actually a bargain.
Yeah.
The Sega Genesis Model 1 is $150.
So my wife bought me the Mini Genesis, the Sega Genesis Mini. I got that for Christmas a couple years back.
So I'm still going to say, from the NES Classic to the TurboGrafx-16, all these minis were done very well. The boxes look great. Instruction manuals look great. The menus, the games, everything, I think they were well worth the money.
Plastic molding of replicating that shrunken console. It was well done for sure.
Absolutely. So far, again, as far as the public's concerned, hit, mini madness. When these things come out, people want them. Will that trend continue?
Probably not, no.
Probably not, no. Let's see what we have next.
Is this a scary one? Yep. That's a scary one.
Will the trend continue? I think not. Train wreck happening.
I can't believe my eyes. Oh wow, do I see what I see? I can't believe it. Oh wow, it swept me off my feet.
Duck.
Oh wow, this city's
I can just see the cat.
I'm so in awe, I'm so amazed. I'm counting up a million ways. We tear it up, we rule the world.
all these
We
benefits
can be heroes for a day. I'm so in awe, I'm so amazed. I'm so amazed. Oh wow. Oh wow.
With all good things, things have to come to an end. And Sony made that happen. I know some people said they were happy with it, but the PS1, the box was great. Controller, people wanted the DualShock, but I completely understood the original. It's supposed to be the original machine. Got the original controller.
Not analog, digital D-pad.
The console looked great. The problem was the software and the menu. They absolutely did not put the proper effort into it. It was a mixture of NTS 60 frames second games and PAL 50 frames.
And they ran like crap.
Games. They didn't run well. Now, the saving grace for it was the hacker scene.
Oh, yeah.
The hackers, because again, I got mine, because it got discounted so heavily. I got mine, I think, for like $28. So I didn't spend a lot for it.
That's about that I paid. I think $40 for me.
Right. So it was obviously Sony did not take the care with their property because, again, Nintendo Nintendo had its own IPs, plus some extra ones, but they had their own IPs, and they wanted to put out the best foot forward. Sega, as well, had their own IPs and something. Sony really doesn't have its own IPs. They had third parties. Very little. And they were just jumping on the bandwagon. That was a cash grab unit. They didn't put the time in.
Felt like. Look at it this way. Whether that was intentional or not, it totally felt like that. You know what I mean? It totally, the community, the people that bought them, they were like, it felt like a cash grab. Maybe that wasn't the intention. Again, they could be like Disney and completely clueless. But,
no one can be as clueless as Disney. I'm not going to save Sony on that one. No one's that clueless.
Well, that's the thing, but I agree with you. The box, the actual unit itself, the controller, everything looked great. Like out of the box, it looked fantastic.
Then you plugged it in.
You plugged it in. You were like, "What the hell is this crap?" And I think they heard them, but they could have taken a bit more TLC. I mean, hire the damn hackers. Here, we'll pay you $5,000 to $10,000. They'll fix it.
Yeah, I can't even say it felt like a rush job because again, the box, the unit, the controller. Again, I understand people are upset about the DualShock.
I think the software team did the rush job. The hardware team.
They did. The menu system was blah. The games, like for me, Tekken, that was the game I would have bought it for alone. A good version of Tekken, and it was okay. It didn't run as smoothly as I would have wanted it to have done. But again, the saving grace again was the community and the hackers. They made that machine because if you can get it for like $20, $25, $30, it was a bargain with a quick USB drive plugged in, and boom, you had a hell of a system that played.
I think they replaced
everything.
The emulation that was in there too, wasn't it? I think they replaced the base emulation software. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't that what the hackers did? They took the base emulator and replaced it, or something.
I think they did because I think the emulator they used in there was not the best. It wasn't the smoothest in the whole 9 yards. But again, I won't hack it. I only have one. I should have probably bought a couple. It was so cheap. I only bought the one, and I always have to leave one stock. And if I have only got one, I'm not hacking it. So it is the way it is.
I left mine in the box and I didn't touch it. I wasn't even that interested. I just got it because it's super cheap and that was it. And it looks good. Even if you don't plug it in, you put it on a shelf, it looks great.
It does. It does.
You know?
So, but it just goes to prove that just because it's a mini, just like anything else, just because you put it out there doesn't mean it's going to sell well. You got to put a little effort. And it was just obvious to the fans anyway that Sony was really doing it just to get it out there and get a nostalgia grab out of it, some cash, because they didn't put the proper attention into it.
They would have collected dust if they would have kept that price at, what is it, $90, $100 or whatever in Canada.
Right.
If they would have kept it at that, it would have.
Well, it dropped quick. I mean, it was. I remember it went as soon as reviews started coming out. The price just went.
Whoop. Yeah, I saw that.
Right down.
So what else we got?
Let's see what we got next.
That was the ugly duckling of the bunch.
Can they recover? Can they recover from Sony's fumble? Let's find out. I don't think that's Sid shit. I don't think that's Sid.
Emulated Sid. Never good.
Peggy 12.
That's the real thing.
So what do you think? What do you think of the Commodore 64 Mini? Now, just so everyone knows,
I got one.
They do make that Mini. They also make, and no joke, they make a Maxi, and the Maxi is basically has an actual working keyboard, which I think is really cool. But Steven, you have this. What do you think?
I don't have a Maxi, but the Maxi also has the VIC-20, I think, built in emulation.
Yes.
So you could do the VIC-20 and the Commodore 64. I have the Mini. Now, when it first launched, it was pretty, I think it was like $150 Canadian. It was a little higher than the other ones. But this thing had the joystick and all that stuff. Now, I got mine on sale, kind of like, I won't say the PS1, but I got it later as a Christmas or birthday gift. I forget. It's really cool. The keyboard does, you just want to start typing on these tiny little keys. They're like super small. But overall, at the launch, the firmware sucked.
That's what I heard.
Because it didn't suck as far as the emulation. It just sucked that you couldn't load your own games. And what they did is shortly after, I think a few months after, they released a firmware where you could plug in a USB stick with a bunch of D64 files and then load your own stuff. And it was pretty compatible. I'm a big fan of the game Space Taxi. And I was like, oh, let's see if it works. Popped it in and it booted this Space Taxi game, no problem. So they did a really good job on keeping the firmware up to date, because all these other consoles we've spoken about so far, I don't think there was many updates to them that you could do. You know what I mean? That you could actually update the firmware on them. I don't think any of the minis that we talked about you can update the firmware.
Not
but the Commodore
officially.
64,
Not officially.
well, I meant officially. Let's say officially. The Commodore 64, they released an official firmware where you can sideload your own games because they figured people are going to use it anyways, and it might make them fly off the shelf more.
And
if
I
the
will
word
say,
gets
I
out.
think that the 64 was the first one that has, like I said, multiple minis, maxis. They have the C65 project, which is expensive, $600-700, but they have that.
That's the Mega 65.
Mega 65. So there's
My
all these
buddy
things.
Keith's got one, and it's a pretty impressive piece of hardware. But you're right, it's extremely expensive. But the right person has to buy this thing, right? So,
Right.
But now I think we don't have consoles to talk about. I think we're going to get into the whole more computer.
We
part
are,
of it, right?
but I think even right now, I haven't picked one of these up yet, but I've been waiting. You can get them for like around maybe $60, I think, at this point. So I may pick one up just to have.
The 64 one, or
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the mini, not the maxi. The maxi is more
are
money.
they still out there? Like, I
They-
mean, are they
Yeah,
still around?
on
Yeah.
Amazon. They're on Amazon and eBay. Obviously, they're still on eBay.
Yeah,
but-
yeah.
The price, I think, right now, or at the teetering point, if you don't get one soon, the prices are going to start to go
Yeah,
back
probably
up.
up and up. Yeah.
So let's see what we have next. But
But
again,
if you're a
what do
fan
you
of the
overall think?
64,
Better than
I
the
thought it was great. I thought it
PlayStation
was
one?
great. Once
So
you,
it's better?
the PlayStation one was a piece of crap. but
Okay.
The
So,
64.
They're
If
recovering.
you're a 64 fan and you can't get a real 64, get this thing. It'll play all the games. A nice menu, and it comes with the Competition Pro
Here you go.
joystick.
Upkiss,
It's good.
$45 right now. So they're not too bad
Yeah,
right
I
now.
paid less than that, but hey, get it for $45. I think it's worth it. But when you get it, upgrade the firmware on it when you get it, and it works great, in my opinion. So yeah.
Okay, let's see
Yeah,
what's
for sure.
next in the mini list. What do we got? Now we're talking.
Yeah, exactly. Now we're talking. Now we're cooking with gas.
Tank mouse, shitty joystick going. I have no idea what he just said. All right, so I'm going to just go first, Steve. What do you think of the Commodore Amiga 500 Mini?
I don't have one. My first Amiga was a 500. There is nostalgia there, but they're expensive as all hell, man. They're like $250 everywhere I look, and I'm not doing it. I'm sorry. That's halfway to a real machine, so
Yep.
I'd rather get the real machine. But it comes, I think it comes standard with that joystick and the tank mouse
It does,
and the unit, right? I
but
think,
also, again, not a working keyboard. However, once again, they're working on an Amiga Mini Max, or whatever they want to call it, that will have a
Maxi or
functioning
whatever.
keyboard. My issue here, is we're going to get into a little bit later as well, is they couldn't use the Commodore or the Amiga logo on it. So if you're making the Mini
Yeah, it's
to
just the
represent,
Amiga, not the Commodore Amiga,
Right.
or whatever, or the Amiga.
it had that little flowery logo on there. And
Yeah,
if you're
yeah.
making something to represent, again, you can make your own decal, so it's not horrible. But when you make something like that, that kind of turned me off a little bit. And but again, you can hack it. They have firmware updates. You can sideload games. It's fairly compatible. It looks the part. The box. No, the boxes never last. I do have a European 500 Plus box. I still have mine in. But you got the box, the
I have a
tank
friend of
mouse.
mine who's got one,
Does.
and he bought a couple of them, and he was selling one of them. And yeah, I just thought the price was so high for what you're getting, especially when you get a PS1 for $20-40,
But I've heard, I
So-
don't own it yet myself, because like I said, I think for me, they're still about $140, $150. And I think, high for me to jump like that. The sweet spot for me, these minis, is under 100. Once you go over 100,
Yeah, me too.
I'm like, you know what? I can wait. If I get it, I get it. If not, I'm cool. Over $100 is
Yeah,
not an impulse
exactly.
buy anymore, in my opinion.
I agree with that. I think when you get to these I call these things novelties, right? The under $100 for a novelty, that's okay, But when it starts getting to 250 in that neighborhood, I'm like, yeah, it's too rich for my blood.
Right.
Sorry.
And again, it's basically nothing more than a SBC. It's not a real machine. It's software emulation.
It's a pie in there,
Right.
basically, somewhat.
Not even a
or
pie. That's the
Viper or
thing. It's
whatever.
probably some
ARM processor.
some type of ARM processor in there. But again, for what they are, nostalgia. If you have Amigas, I still have my Amigas. If I didn't have one at all, maybe I would have spent a little more money to get just to have the look of the little mini machine, because that does help when you look
Yeah.
at it. Even if you can't use the little keyboard, you can plug one in. But overall, I still think, if that I don't own one, I've heard enough to say that it looks like they did it right. They did a good job. Software emulation was good. The games on it were good. You're a
I've
Gods
heard
guy.
good things about it.
I think
Yeah,
Gods
I've
was
heard
on
good
there.
things about it. Yeah, love Gods, and it's. I think I've heard positive things about it. It's just pricey. That's all. It's not a piece of junk. It's just pricey. But you get a lot of hardware with it. You get the mouse and the CD32 knockoff joystick,
Right.
the boomerang or whatever.
Which was such a shitty
That's basically
joystick.
what it.
It was such a bad
Oh,
joystick.
it's terrible. You had to be high to use it because the symbols on the buttons, on the 4 buttons, they were like an arrow pointing up, and you're like, what the hell is this thing? And there was weird symbols on there. They weren't A, B, C, A, B, X, Y, like on the Xbox, or
Right.
the triangle and all that stuff on the
Right.
PS 2 and 1 and stuff like that. So it's, yeah, I don't know. It's let's move on to the next one. I think
So
the Amiga is,
before we go on to our next one, I do want to say that this is just proving, and again, I'm only scratching the surface. There are so many other consoles like Neo Geo. There's a ton, Tato. There's a ton of other ones out there. It just goes to show that there is a market for these. I would like, personally, even if it's got an LCD screen, a Vectrex Mini. I would love a Vectrex Mini, even if it's an LCD screen, because I love that machine so much. I saw that Jason joked about the Virtual Boy Mini. I don't know how small you can make it, but
one eyeball.
maybe. But I like how those. It's a collectible that's functional. That's what I really like about them. Not so much to actually play them. Like if my Build-A-Cade or New Wave Toys, they are playable and you can definitely play them, and I enjoy playing them. But they're also just nice to put on the shelf and just reminisce on them. You can buy so many more of them and still have room for activities. Yes, I'm bringing up a Brothers reference. All good. Retro Dude says it's $99 on Amazon. You talk about the 500 Mini, because I haven't seen it that cheap. So let me know, Retro Dude, if you're talking about the Amiga.
I'm gonna check right now
because I haven't seen it that cheap. Maybe it's on sale now, New Year's. I don't know.
104.
That's not bad.
US.
I might. We'll see.
In Canada, it's got to still be 250. I'm going to go to Amazon.ca and type that in and see.
Well, let's
and just see.
Let's go into now where
$203.
That's
$203.
That's a lot
in Canada.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Like, no way.
But let's go into now where we are today in 2024. Let's see what we got.
Phone book. No, sorry.
Don't have pricing, I don't think, yet in this, though. What do you think, Steven? Just before I do anything, before I open my mouth and say where I have a problem.
What do I think? The sad reality of this machine for me, and we talked about this before the show, I have zero nostalgia for it. I didn't grow up with this. There was no store selling this machine. So for me, it's kind of like I have to admit, there's a certain curiosity that I have for it. Is it something I'm going to run out and get? No. I will check it out if a friend of mine has it or whatever. But I know this means more to you than to me. So how about you take the floor and let us, your thoughts on
Sounds
it, like
good.
right off the bat. Well, I'll chime in on the title thing there, but go ahead.
Yep, we'll go. So, like I said before, this is my camera freaking hosed up. So I got to go back here again, unhose my camera because my camera is being a big baby. So let's do this and that. And see, there we go. So this is my 400. I didn't have this when I was younger. I did want one though. I worked in a video store in '79 when this thing was released, and I know people complain about this keyboard. I was telling Steven before, and it is a pretty bad keyboard to actually use and practice. But there's just something about this
like the
look.
Timex Sinclair 1000.
Yes.
Remember that? The Timex Sinclair membrane keyboard.
It is just something about this keyboard and look of the unit that I love. And again, this thing is actually, my camera froze up again. This thing is basically an absolute tank because back in the day, the FCC, I'm going to open this thing up right here. The cartridge port's under here. If I can open it up. And this is like 100 pounds of aluminum. You can stand behind an Atari 400 and a nuclear blast, and you'll be fine. This is really a solid, thick piece of aluminum. So these things were built like tanks. And here's the cartridge. They're smaller than the Atari 2600 cartridge. Just put this right down inside there. Now, fun fact, I was telling Steven before, the 800, this 400, 800 were released at the same time. But the 800 had two cartridge slots, a left slot, which is what this is, and a right slot. And actually, on the cartridge, it'll actually say left cartridge because there were two. Now, as far as I know, there was only one cartridge that said right for the 800. And that's all they've used it for. So eventually, they took it away. But this thing had so many firsts. And I've said this so many times in the past, but there may be some new people here, that even though the Atari 400 and 800 came out in 1979, and the Atari 5200 came out in 82, the chipset that's in here was the 5200. When the Stella was released, the engineers told Nolan Bushnell had a 3-year lifespan. So they started working on the project that became these, but it really was the Atari 5200. But then when computers started coming out, and you had the trio of Tandy and Commodore and Apple, Atari said, hold your horses, take the chipset, that advanced chipset, make computers out of it. So these came out first. And I want to tell you another first, and people don't realize that. The Atari 4 and 800 computers, and even the Atari 5200, are the very first computers with dedicated co-processors. That's right. So even though this thing had a CPU at 1.76 megahertz, it ran faster than anyone else's because the graphics were offloaded to the graphics chip and sound was off to the Pokey. They were all independently done. So Jay Miner, who designed the chipset in here, may sound familiar because he's who developed the Amiga. So yes, the Atari 400, 800, 8-bit line is the true ancestor, grandfather, lineage of the Amiga computers. So when they announced this 400 Mini, I was really, really excited. But once again, they had to go and piss me off with something really, really stupid and cheesy. I'm going to show you what it is. So you can see right here, what do we have on here, Stephen? We have the Atari logo, right?
The word Atari,
right.
And the
and
400 in the yellow that you can't even read because it's,
so, I mean,
same color as the case.
You have this thing here, Atari 400, and look what they do. This just gets my goat. The Atari logo, the 400. What the hell's up with that?
They're almost there.
Why you have to go?
I know you could replace the sticker, but geez, guys,
Why is it called the 400? It should be called Atari 400. You're making an Atari Mini.
Yeah,
you have the USB ports. You mark them all down there, really nice. The keyboard on there looks great. It looks great. Then you fuck it up by putting the word "the" instead of the word Atari.
Well,
what
somebody's going to make new stickers to shove up there probably and fix everything. That's probably what's going to happen. And yeah,
absolutely, Joe Sabos, please make me the proper decal, because otherwise I'm not going to touch
thank
this with
goodness
10
it's
foot
just
pole.
a decal and not the whole thing, right? When you
Well,
think
that's
about
why
it,
I'm not.
it's-
I won't buy the
Yeah.
2600 plus, because it's a light 4.6 piece of garbage. It should have been a heavy 6er. If you're releasing that as nostalgia bait, not that. So this thing looks really good. I mean, it's got the 4 USB ports in the front. Great. It's got a working LED for the power. Great.
keyboard doesn't work though, right?
Keyboard doesn't work. And you know what?
Yeah, okay.
They really could. This would have cost money, but they could have made that keyboard work. It's so tiny, but they could have made a pressure-sensitive thing just for nostalgia. But I'm
probably.
okay. I'm okay with that, because again, the keyboard on here was really bad anyway. It really.
So what's this selling for? What's going to be the price?
They
tag on this
don't.
thing?
They haven't said yet, so I don't know what the price
Oh.
point is on this unit. I don't know.
If anybody knows in chat, put it up for us. But I haven't seen anything for it. Unfortunately, like I said, I got no nostalgia for this thing. Not that I don't think it's bad or whatever, but it's, I don't know. I think you know what this reminds me of, Glenn? It's the flashback ColecoVision. Remember the ColecoVision flashback?
Which again, they screwed up on that one. The Intellivision one wasn't bad, but they screwed up on the other one.
They made the controllers, number one, not compatible with an original ColecoVision, which was stupid. And number two, they changed the colors on the pad. Like it was kind of like they weren't paying attention, or they were drunk, or you know what I mean? It just seems that way. So
Video Game Vegas asked me if New Wave Toys did me dirty, and I'm going to say they didn't, because I know for a fact that Shiloh tried very hard to get the Stern logo, but they couldn't get the rights to the Stern logo. So for that, me fixing it with a Stern decal, actually, my buddy Bruce Yeager actually already made the decal. It's available on the New Wave Toys site under the file section, so you can put it. So they did not. I don't know how Atari doesn't have the right to use its own name, Atari, on this console. The word "the" is the stupidest. You might have just put the Atari logo and 400. The in it is, I'm sorry, it is the stupidest thing on there, guys. I hope you fix that before it gets released. You're probably not going to, but
I think what
stupid.
it is too is I'm seeing it now from a graphic designer standpoint. It runs out of space. To put the Atari in there would get everything and shrink everything. You know what I mean?
I would
That's what I
have
think
been
would
happier
happen.
with a squished Atari logo than the word "the." The is
Yeah, for
stupid.
Sure.
And Retro Dude just
Easily
said
fixed
here,
with a sticker, thankfully.
It is.
Which is good.
but I'm wondering if that's more like a plate. So maybe Joe Sabos can make an acrylic plate to put there to give it some
Yeah, for
some
sure.
depth. Because you also have the Fujitsu, the Fuji logo on there that's raised. So I hope they can fix that. That's
So 119 bucks or
119
120
right
bucks,
now.
it
That's
looks
a
like?
big no with the word "the" on it. I will not buy it with the word "the" on it unless I know for a fact. R-Cade Graphics, you know what? He can make a decal, but the decal in him will be a thinner decal. This, from looking at it, has the raised logo on it. So I don't know if R-Cade Graphics will be able to do its justice. I
Who
really
knows
think,
if even Atari will take the time to do a good sticker? You know what I mean? Like who knows?
yeah. See, but Andy agrees with me. Andy agrees with me. He agrees. It's
Yeah.
pretty dumb. The word "the" has no reason to be there. Just put the Fuji logo and 400 if you can't use the word Atari. But why can't Atari use the word Atari?
But when you think about the original one, like if you look at it, you can't even see the word 400. It's almost beige.
Hobby Hand
You know.
says it's $99 if I have Amazon UK account.
Depends how desperate you are, I guess.
Yeah, but I'm definitely upset with that. I don't like when companies to me this is like the PlayStation one right now. The PlayStation did a nice case. They cheaped out on the software side and put games on it. No care.
You know what's weird is I find that they get right to the end and then they stop. Like they sort of like they're almost there and they don't want to take it that extra mile or to the finish line, so to speak. I find with a lot of these companies, it's kind of weird. I'd love to be in some of these meetings, a fly on the wall, and just listen to these people talk through their ass about like, hey, let's just crank it out just like that. And it's like, no, people won't like that.
Right.
You
Well,
know?
that's what they think.
It's-
That's what Disney
Learn some
thinks.
lessons.
Disney thinks
Learn
people just
some
we're going to come because we're Disney. No, we're not. No, we're not. As far as I'm
Not
concerned,
anymore, anyways.
Disney doesn't exist. Your parks don't exist. I don't care anything. That's like Lucasfilm. They're done. Just like Star Trek, the new stuff, done. I don't watch any of the new Trek. Enterprise is where Trek died for me. 4, 5, and 6 are real Star Wars. I'll tolerate 1, 2, and 3 in Rogue One. I'll tolerate them. But after that, doesn't exist. I did like a little bit of The Mandalorian. 3rd season was garbage. Boba Fett,
It's supposed to
garbage.
be a movie the 3rd season.
Yep.
So
now
or
Rexer's going to
second season
ask
or
if he's still
whatever.
here if I watched Endor. And to be quite honest, I really can't yet stomach looking at Disney Plus to look at Endor right now. I am so disgusted with that company.
Yeah.
So I know Rex is telling me that Endor, you guys may say, Glenn, watch it. It's decent.
It's a slow burn. It's a slow burn. So hey, we're getting towards the end of the show here.
We are. I just started my tirade, Stephen. My tirade just started.
Oh, I know. We got to cut you off though. You'll get all angry and stuff.
Okay. Well, I will say that Atari, if you're listening, 2 things.
Back to the drawing board.
2 things. 1, call me. 2, let's fix this logo here in this unit. Yeah.
Fix a sticker. If the sticker was fixed, would you buy it?
Yeah, I would because I love this console. I know there's so much hate because of that keyboard in here, but that to me is a charm to me. I love this same power as the 800, same power as everything else. And this one, I was telling Stephen before, when it was released, it was supposed to have 4K, and then it was released with 8K, and then very quickly went to 16K because the prices of RAM went down. But I quickly added this, which was I added a full 48K. You had a solder in here. So this is basically an Atari 800 with 1 cartridge slot, which again is totally fine, and it's more portable. The downside is it only has RF out, and that is a big downside to this. However, there's a lot of ways to get composite, S-video, or even HDMI out of this.
Gotcha.
And not too expensive. So with that, I want to say again, Stephen, tell your son Sam, happy birthday.
Yes, I will.
Have Sam and his friends write Atari right now and tell them to fix a sticker.
Get those young 19-year-olds to write to Atari. They'd be like, "Who's that?" But yeah. So I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight and listening to us rant about these minis. So yeah.
Oh, I forgot to even mention. So I was so going on with the show. I forgot to announce that. God, my mind is really gone today. Old School Gamer Magazine is now like a sponsor for Kicking Old School and Glenn's Retro Show. So we'll be doing some commercials for them and have the logo up here as well. I had a conversation with him today, and I'll be partnering with the Old School Gamer Magazine, which is good for us, Stephen. Oh, wait, you're this way. I keep going this way, but you're this way. It's going to be a good thing for us.
I'm pointing backwards, but yeah, anyways, whatever.
So, again, I want to thank all you guys. Again, this was not a very good week for me overall. It was just a rotten week. But you guys, as always, on Friday nights, turn my frown upside down, even with the and that Atari logo there. I really appreciate you guys. I appreciate Steven. But remember, just take a second before you go to Super Game Room Dudes. Pick up your phone, text, call, send an email to a family or friend, no matter if they're in New York, they're in Florida, no matter where they are.
Doesn't cost anything anymore.
It doesn't. Tell them you love them, because tomorrow is never promised. But in between those times, write Atari and tell them to fix that freaking logo. Then after that, what are you going to do? Then you can game on after that. Game on, everyone. Have a good night,
guys.
Game on. Sit, Blue, sit. Good dog.